Hello, in this video we're going to discuss Satan's worst enemy, Yorky. So, in heaven there's one particular angel that Satan never ever gets along with. In history, if you want to know who Yorky is, he's the Duke of York, the grand old Duke of York who had 10,000 men. Alright, that's Yorky. But that is another story about how that came about. He was never actually a duke. It was it was a posthumous award from Queen Victoria. So Yorky is good friends of Queen Victoria. So the first confrontation between Yorky and Satan happened 400 billion years ago. 400 billion years ago, Satan, who was originally Lucifer 347, convinced Baal and Ashura and the second Lucifer batch to follow him. Members of the first Lucifer batch and second Lucifer batch to follow him and do as he said. So the number of his followers, including Satan, was 4,988. And what Satan did was, when the angels went out into the fields to play tag, so their environment is a high-tech environment. There are skyscrapers. For each batch of angels, there's 5,000 angels. They live in apartments that are 2-story for each person. There's 5,000 per each batch, and they're divided into 4 buildings set up in a square arrangement, with one big building in between all 4 of them, which is their common room. The batches, even Satan lived this way for a while before he was kicked out of his batch. What Satan did was he got his followers to go out into the field, and they surrounded all the angels that were out playing tag. And they managed to capture 547. And they just held them there. They wouldn't let them go. They just kept them there. So it was men and women. They were from the Gabriel batch, the Angela transsexual batch, Rebecca batch, and Moses batch. So there's quite a few of them. Many of these people held captive have come to earth in this history, some as celebrities and movie stars and singers and politicians. So it'll be interesting for people to find out who the captives were later on. So they were held captive for 4 days, and the rest of their batches tried to get to them, and many wound up captured and put into the center of a circle. So there was a circle, all the hostages were put in the center of the circle. They weren't allowed to eat or drink, and it rained. Their clothing was white overalls for some were wearing white robes, and others were naked. So some people play tag naked. Others had been made naked because Satan walked up to them, or him or one of his followers tore their clothing off them, and then Satan started to eat their clothing. That's one of the weird things Satan does. So one of the angels had an eye torn out. It was Angela's spokesman from the Angela transsexual batch. And she talked to the Holy Spirit, like she was screaming, and she asked the Holy Spirit for help who contacted God and let God know, and God immediately informed an archangel that was in the area, who was actually in orbit in a spaceship, that there was something going on planet the Batches, and to rescue people who are being held prisoner. So Yorky was up in space, and he descended rapidly and got dropped off in the area, and immediately went in there and confronted Satan. So that's where Satan first met Yorky in this history, with a confrontation, since he had changed his name to Satan. Yorky killed all 4,988 people that were following Satan, including Satan. It was just hand to hand. So Satan and his followers are not soldiers. They're not archangels. They're not trained in martial arts. Archangels can use martial arts in order to defend heaven. So in this case, Yorky went through and rescued all the people being held captive and took them back to their batches, mostly by carrying them over his shoulder and dropping them off in their batch. Many were suffering hypothermia and dehydration and injuries, including broken arms and legs from being crushed, from being trampled. Satan's followers all had their arms linked together and just kept chanting whatever Satan or Baal told them to do. So it was like that, and all the people got rescued, and Satan's followers all got killed, including Satan. The day after that took place, the Holy Spirit refilled their souls with new bodies, and Satan's followers were cold, hungry and thirsty still. And so the next day, Yorky set up a barbecue and managed to convince 4,900 to leave Satan and return to their batches. So now Satan is left with 8 people, including Michael C. and FC. Now, with regard Michael C. and FC, Michael was originally Lucifer, and he changed his name to Michael after an argument with Yorky, where he saw Yorky arguing with angels from the Michael batch. Angels from the Michael batch were not happy with Yorky because of the way he treated Satan, because he kept killing Satan in front of people. Satan asked for it, that's what happened. So the Michael batch told Yorky that they're against what he was doing. Michael C., who's a follower of Satan, was impressed by this, and so he changed his name from Lucifer to Michael. We put the C on the end because he's got a few nicknames. I put the C on there so we know him from everyone else. There are quite a few Michaels in heaven and on earth. So that was the first confrontation with Yorky after Lucifer had changed his name to Satan. Michael C. and FC wound up in purgatory. They actually got confronted by Yorky after they'd done something which caused all the angels in the batches to abandon their batches in that region and travel to planet God and Mary's house. How they did this we'll cover in another video. But both men are scoundrels and wound up in purgatory. So they're in purgatory when Satan tried to kill God with a knife. And Yorky was there when that happened and gave Satan and his 5 followers a hiding. And then God opened up a wormhole to the storage dimension, which we call hell, and Yorky tossed Satan through the wormhole. And that's how Satan got to the storage dimension. His followers were then either thrown through there or they ran into it. They always tend to go where Satan is, and so that's how Satan and his followers, except Michael C and FC, wound up in the storage dimension. There were later confrontations with Yorky, and so Yorky was the Archangel sent to Sodom and Gomorrah to rescue Lot and his family. We've covered this in a previous video. And with him was Michael C. Now Michael C demanded that he go to Sodom and Gomorrah. He found out that Satan was there and wanted to talk to Satan. That's his motivation for going there. God is patient, but he looked at this as a possibility that going to Sodom and Gomorrah with Yorky might help Michael stop being a scoundrel and start being good. This didn't occur though in Sodom and Gomorrah. Michael C, upon entering Sodom and Gomorrah with Yorky, he began to recognize that Satan and Baal were there, and Ashura and the others, and started trying to convince them to come back to heaven to their batch. And he was doing lots of stupid things in front of Yorky. Yorky actually had to drag Michael C through the crowd and kill people at the same time on many occasions in Sodom and Gomorrah. And they found Lot and his family, and Yorky gave Lot and his family first aid, and the next day escorted them back through the town. So Michael C was there. He's a key player in the UK military intelligence, and you'll see signs of what this man is like, because he tends to do certain things to people's lives and their houses. I'm the Archangel Daniel, and I'm from heaven.